Welcome to CLB's digital series, Where Are We Now? I am your host, Jocelyn Hunter, CLB's Senior Director of Communications. Thanks to our listeners for tuning into this first episode of 2025. Speaking of 2020, we are celebrating CLB's milestone anniversary of 125 years of services this year. And in this episode, we will highlight our rehabilitation services, which include the Foundations of Adjustment to Blindness, often referred to by its acronym FAB, FAB, as well as our orientation and mobility service. CLB has so many alums of FAB, Foundations of Adjustment to Blindness, and former consumers of services such as orientation and mobility. And one of these alums is joining us today. I am pleased to introduce Janice Forbes. Welcome, Janice, to Where Are We Now?
Thank you, Jocelyn. Glad to be here.
Thank you. So let's get started. Janice, how did you determine that you needed services to help you adjust to your vision loss?
As one might imagine, it was devastating for me to realize that I had to rethink and redo my whole way of living. And in a few weeks, I was able to reach out to Maryland Doors Department of Rehabilitation Services and expressed my fervent desire to return to work. I was working before I lost my vision and had the aspiration to return in any capacity. I wanted to see if it was possible to resume my career the way I left it, just with some accommodations for my vision, but to be able to jump right back in. And I met with Doors and we went through the services that they thought I would need. And they mentioned CLB as a resource, but of course I'm taking notes. I'm grieving, as a matter of fact, and didn't really think much of it until my stepfather, who at the time, he's since retired, but at the time he was working for the FBI and they had a benefit fair and CLB was at the benefit fair. He gave me, it must have been 10 pounds of paper he collected, every flyer, every brochure. And I went through it and was excited to see that you all had a vocational counselor on staff. And that's how I connected to you guys.
Oh, what a story, Janice. So you got connected through a bridge. You had
Yes,
the Maryland Division of Rehabilitation Services, and you had your family connection.
yes.
That's amazing. And congratulations to you for having the, as you described, the aspiration for returning to work, that you were resilient and determined to seek out services. And here you are today.
Yes, I just a little personal aside, we're West Indian and no West Indian mother is going to let their kid not go to work. We all had to work. Whether there was vision loss or not, we had to get up and go to work every day.
Thank you for sharing that personal testament as a drive to your accomplishments. Can you tell us about the experience here at CLB? So you've been referred to CLB by Doors, one of its vendors, and your family introduced you to a fair, and you then got another reminder about CLB. So you're here at CLB for the service. What was that like?
The first time I called and made an appointment with the vocational counselor, I was very excited. I got to the building, found my way to the proper floor, but got flustered in finding the exact room location. I went, it seems like around and around, but finally I was able to find the meeting room. And when I entered, I was flustered and just panting heavily, I fear. And someone came from the back, and it was your director of rehabilitation who said, "You're flustered. You've obviously had a traumatic time coming in. So I'm going to ask after your appointment if we could sign you up for FAB. I think that's something you need orientation and mobility to navigate your way around." So I had my meeting with your vocational counselor. It went very well. And Brandon Cox, I know he's been gone a while, but it was Brandon that recommended that I start FAB. He came towards the end of our meeting and gave me the dates that I would be attending.
That's an incredible story for multiple reasons. It's a testament to your experience, day one, your immediate entry, and the savvy observation of our former team member, Brandon, who recognized that you could benefit from FAB, that you could benefit from the orientation and mobility skill set training. I'm so glad that it was recognized and recommended and that you moved forward with it. And what was the FAB program like? Because this was a decade ago. So this
Yes,
was at the early onset of the program, the Foundations of Adjustment to Blindness experience for you.
it was a lot. I had been telling myself and others, like my stepfather, that I didn't need a cane. I was fine. I didn't need anything to help. I was good. I was going to make it. But once I had the cane in my hand and saw how to navigate, it made it a lot easier. And I thank God that I was able to get orientation and mobility so soon after my vision loss. It was a godsend. We had O&M training every morning. And some mornings I wasn't looking forward to it as much, but we did get it every morning and I learned something every day. And we just built on the skills from the day before, the week before. We learned other skills as well, but I think orientation and mobility was what I needed and what I wanted because it allowed me the opportunity to be more independent and to be able to navigate on my own. Instead of having a family member take me places or whatever, I was able to navigate with my O&M skills. Oh, and also, it's not by any means something less, but it's also the place that I learned how to cook, learned how to shop. With vision loss, I'm still measuring and getting the pounds of the apples that I got. It was a reinforcement that you can still do the things that you normally do. I was telling a coworker a little bit ago, I came into FAB one morning and said, if I don't learn anything else, I need to learn how to plug this iron into my wall. The receptacle and the end of the cord just aren't matching up. I need someone to teach me how to plug my iron in the morning so I can iron my clothes to get out to work. And I was taught that skill in less than 15 minutes, I think. And I was forever grateful because it was beyond me to figure out how to do it on my own. So FAB taught me things great and small.
Oh, that is such a great example, Janice. I've heard numerous examples over the years about FAB, but that story about the iron and the usefulness of having that skill of plugging into the wall safely so that you can be out the door efficiently and appropriately for the occasion is really well suited. No pun intended, but that sounds that's great. So you've accomplished your goal. We're fast forwarding. Now you are back at work. You are now employed at National Industries for the Blind. Please describe your role there.
I help recruit, I'm in human resources. I help recruit for the open positions that we have. And It's been, oh my gosh, every day is different. We have positions and then we fill them, of course, but sometimes for different reasons that happen, we have to take them down. I was speaking with a young lady yesterday. We had to take down a position that she had applied for, but I was able to have her look at the other postings that we had up. And definitely for the role I have, because I am able to go to career fairs, I'm able to use my O&M skills to navigate, not just to get here to work, but also to go to where you and I recently reconnected, the Holiday Inn, and get in, set up the table, set up the materials that we would be handing out. We do go to the NFB convention every year in July. So it allows me to be able to navigate the airport, to get from the airport back to the hotel, set up the room, be able to tell people where things are. And I think that's the most useful skill that I achieved at FAB, not the iron, but the actual orientation and mobility skills that has served me well here.
Oh, sounds like it. Yes, indeed, that orientation and mobility has provided you with know-how to travel safely, locally, and beyond, all for the good of your service there at National Industries for the Blind. And I'm sure they are equally as grateful as you are. You're an outstanding example of CLB's programming, FAB, orientation, and mobility. Sounds like a really fitting role for you. And again, a really strong representative of the community of people who are blind or visually impaired.
Thank you, Jocelyn.
Of course. And Janice, I'm curious. You have described, your role, and yes, it was great reconnecting with you recently with some of my colleagues here at CLB. We represented Columbia Lighthouse for the Blind at NFB's chapter's career fair, national attendees coming out to that fair in early February. So I know that really speaks to your role and your capabilities. And in that role, obviously, you are not necessarily directly inspiring people, but I'm sure you are inspiring people as they meet you, learn more about you and your story. Are there other ways that you are able to inspire other individuals who are blind or visually impaired about how to persevere, how to pivot, how to get those skills in order to accomplish that goal as you described, that you accomplished a decade ago when you sought out CLB and you got that training?
Part of what I always try to convey is that you have to ask questions because there are different ways to do everything, but especially as someone who's newly blind or even someone who's been blind for a while, if you run across something that you're not sure about or you have questions about, if you ask, you'll get a wealth of information. It's been my experience that very few people tell me no. They might tell me, I don't know, but I know someone who can help you. But it's always good to ask a question and get turned in the right direction. As with the iron, I keep coming back to that. You can try and you can try different things in different ways, but unless you reach out for help, that's the really guaranteed way of getting support and getting additional skills to put in your toolbox.
Like that, Janice. That's really solid advice. Thank you for sharing.
Oh, you're welcome.
And specifically, what are ways that you are able to champion people to contact CLB?
For me, it all starts with orientation and mobility. So if the person doesn't have a cane, I'll ask them to contact CLB to get orientation and mobility training because without that foundation, you're stymied, you're stuck. Once they reach out to get that training, the world is their oyster. They can go into skill building, they can attend FAB. And I know you all do a lot with your vocational rehabilitation people. If they're interested in going back to work, you guys help do that as well. There's just a wealth of training and skill building that is available at CLB.
Janice, thank you for that rally of support of our programs and services. And thank you for participating in this edition of Where Are We Now?
You're very welcome.
It's been such a great conversation and getting to know more about you and your story. Again, congratulations on your immense success. And I am sure you will inspire even more people. Thank you.
Thank you, Jocelyn. I appreciate the invitation.
And for our listeners, please contact CLB at clb.org or call 240-737-5100 to learn more about orientation and mobility, foundations of adjustment to blindness, or other programs and services that could help you or someone you know.